Already given the Jen and Jake's bizarre segment that we're about to record, this already feels like kayfabe.
See, that's the thing now, is that we have officially entered the point where neither one of us knows when kayfabe is starting, which is how you actually know that kayfabe is in effect.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jams and Tea podcast, where we spin the jams and spill the tea. And today, we've got two reviews of two brand new albums for you. We have the new review of country music darling Ella Langley, her sophomore album, Dandelion. And we also have a review of the Nine Inch Nails and Boys Noise collaborative live remix album, Nine Inch Noise. And Jake, this segment feels like a perfect encapsulation of the moment that we started recording regularly together up until now. A small part of that has been preparation for this segment because I have never listened to Nine Inch Nails before. But when we figured out that this Nine Inch Nails record, Nine Inch Noise, a collaboration with Boys Noise, was coming out, we knew that we would have to talk about it on the show, regardless of whether our Nine Inch Nails, or rather your Nine Inch Nails retrospective series with Luke, had caught up or not. We knew we were going to put this on the schedule so that we could talk about it as soon as possible. And so here we are, talking about Nine Inch Noise. This is a product of Nine Inch Nails' past 365 days because it was born out of the Peel It Back tour and them touring with the now collaborating artist Boys Noise. And it feels also like an extension of the work that Nine Inch Nails had put into the Tron Ares soundtrack because Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross have done a lot of film scores. And so it was kind of a 1-2 punch when more or less the Tron Ares soundtrack was announced as the last Nine Inch Nails album because it wasn't just that Reznor and Ross were doing the score, as they had previously been credited on their soundtrack work for films like, more than one of the films by Luca Guadagnino, all the way back to, what are other movies that they've done? Did they do The Social Network?
They did do The Social Network. They
Yeah.
also did the score for the Damon Lindelof Watchmen show. They did the most recent Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. They did, as you said, the films with Luca Guadagnino. They did Soul, the Pixar film. And they've also done films like Patriots Day and Bird Box that nobody fucking remembers because they're not particularly great. But yes, this is kind of a culminating moment for the soundtracks, and notably Boys Noise is an artist that have been touring with them on this most recent tour that you mentioned, and they had released the companion EP to the Challengers soundtrack that was a bunch of house EDM, deep house remixes of the soundtrack, which, like, low-key, us and our friends kind of listened to more than the actual soundtrack because the vibes were there.
Reznor and Ross have become well known as film score titans by this point. It's been 15 years since The Social Network came out, and I just feel like I need to let that hurt you for a little bit.
We're getting the trailer for the sequel is being announced at places like South by Southwest and shit right now. Like that's where we are in the lifespan of the world.
And so when it was announced that not just Reznor and Ross, but that Nine Inch Nails was doing that Tron soundtrack, everybody who's been paying attention to their orbits kind of shrugged, but also had questions
Yes.
of like, why is this a Nine Inch Nails project? And my big thesis after listening to Nine Inch Noise is that the Tron Ares soundtrack and Nine Inch Noise are both kind of warm-ups for each other in a weird sort of way. But as an actual Nine Inch Nails fan, what does it feel like for this to be an official release after so long since a like big official studio Nine Inch Nails album, which I should just go ahead and set precedent. I knew that this would be a kind of impact event for me, let's face it. Me spending the last year getting into dance music really heavily, and me being friends with you for as long as I have, Nine Inch Nails was going to find its way at my doorstep eventually. And so I spent all week listening to Nine Inch Noise, the Tron Ares soundtrack, Pretty Hate Machine, and the Downward Spiral pretty much in sync with each other to prepare for this review. And I would have
Oh,
gone
the
farther into the
misery.
I would have gone farther into the discography if I hadn't gotten so deeply stuck in what I just said that I had been listening to, because I couldn't pull myself away from it to listen to anything beyond that in the time between when we decided we were going to do this review and now.
I won't lie. As a Nine Inch Nails fan, as a long-time Nine Inch Nails fan, this is one of the first bands I ever really got into. And I'm a little bit mixed on just the idea of what this is or what Nine Inch Nails even are at this point, because this is probably going to come out before the next episode of the Nine Inch Nails retrospective, which is recorded. I just have to edit it right now, but we are nearing the end of their discography as of right now. And the thing is that we have not gotten a true blue, bona fide, 100% actual Nine Inch Nails LP of traditional music since 2013's Hesitation Marks. Yes, we did have several EPs that were released in the late 2010s that were kind of all of at peace with each other in different ways. There was music that was released alongside the inclusion of them being in Twin Peaks: The Return as well. One of those songs actually makes it onto Nine Inch Noise, as a matter of fact. And after that, we do have the Locusts project, which is a sequel to the ambient series of stuff that Trent did in the 2000s. And yes, we have, of course, the new things that are released under the Nine Inch Nails moniker. And we also have stuff like the album Bad Witch, but that was technically an EP before it had to be released as an LP because of label stuff. So the fact that we got a new Nine Inch Nails soundtrack for Tron Ares, it was like, okay, that's nifty, that's nice, but it's not a new album. And also, I don't really give a fuck about Tron Ares, so I don't really feel any type of way
I
about that,
mean,
honestly.
we're
Like,
people that have strong opinions on the Tron movies now, and we
yes,
knew that this was not going to top the Daft Punk score, and it
no,
doesn't.
no, I
But
mean,
it's a decent
it's
soundtrack.
it's good. I have no doubt that it is the most worthwhile thing involved with that entire affair. And I mean, I like singles like As Alive as You Need Me to Be. But the fact that I had to temper my excitement with, like, oh my God, there is actual new Nine Inch Nails music coming out, and it's kind of a collab album and kind of a remix album, I was like, okay, like I won't hide the fact that I am a little disappointed that we really haven't gotten a new one of these in, let's face it, nearing up on 15 years. And part of me is also like, yeah, but I don't even know what that would be like or what my expectations would be for. So I'm gonna try and meet this where it's at, as just a remix album and as an album that tries to take Nine Inch Nails' sound in a different direction. Because this very, very blatantly to me is sort of a lateral move from their work, Trent and Atticus's work with Boys Noise for Challengers, because that soundtrack kind of feels like it has stealthily become the new answer to the Social Network soundtrack, where it's like that movie kind of became more famous because the soundtrack was so good that everybody just kept talking about it. And so I do think that it's advantageous to go back and toy with Nine Inch Nails' sound, because as we have talked about since the start of this retrospective, this band has been so interwoven with the core identity of queer club music. Whether or not that was the intention when starting out is completely irrelevant at this point, because industrial dance music and techno and that kind of stuff, Nine Inch Nails are so foundational. They find their way into all influences in this field. So taking it and kind of making the subtext the text makes a lot of spiritual sense. So what we have here on Nine Inch Noise is these two artists collaborating, retrofitting existing Nine Inch Nail songs into essentially industrial techno versions of themselves. And on the one hand, it's like, well, this isn't really technically new music. It is a remix album if you want to be as blatant as you possibly can with it. And, remix albums, they don't have like the greatest reputation. Like sometimes they can come out like the Charlie XCX Brat remix album I know was very notable and also very solid.
Smash the glass for how quickly that came up during this review, because I was going to do it if you weren't.
See, that's the thing. It's just the idea of going back and changing your existing stuff with a new suited intent. It's way more than like remix albums tended to be kind of cash grabs in the past. It was sort of a remnant of an old label model that existed when they just needed to sell off extra scraps, and then they would get some notable names attached to it, and maybe they'd throw it on a deluxe edition or something. But it feels like there's kind of a new strain, a new enterprise of trying to take this music and explicitly turn it on its head. And you know what? If that's the intention, I can get behind that. I want to see where people take their sound. And on Nine Inch Noise, it's actually really fun and more often than not, rather transformative. I think that the mixes on this album are kind of the thing that just sort of makes or breaks it. They are insanely dense, very cloudy, very rhythmic mixes that they're more filled out to the extent where they even have like excessive sound bleed in some parts of it, but it's definitely intentional. They're going for a scuzzy sound. They want this to sound like you are physically inside of a club while you are listening to this, just like that Challengers Remix album was. And I really, really appreciate the dedication to aesthetics. It's very transportative. It makes this feel new, and it makes several songs on here that I have always enjoyed even more enjoyable in some instances. I think that the remix of one of my absolute favorite Nine Inch Nails songs of all time, Heresy, is the standout highlight for me on here, just because, holy mother of sweet Jesus titty fucking Christ, the drums. Oh my God, how did they
Making
make them sound like this?
Making this into a breakbeat rave track that sounds like you could put it over that scene in The Matrix Reloaded, which, to be
Yeah.
clear, is the gold standard, despite how cliche it may sound.
It's
Perfect
got
choice.
it's got that like it already has the perfect sort of like throwdown chorus hook of the God is dead and no one cares. If there is a hell, I'll see you there. And it like just mashes it with this overpowering beat, a beat that literally does feel punishing while you listen to it. And I'm like, this just ups the sadomasochistic vibe that was always within this song and just puts it to the forefront in a way that I really, really love. And frankly, that's not the only time this happens on here. I think that songs like Parasite very much benefit from these new mixes because as we'll actually talk about in the next Nine Inch Nails retrospective episode that we're releasing on The Slip, there is a point at which Trent and Atticus are playing with digital instrumentation to the point where, on some of those later Nine Inch Nails albums, the songs suffer a little bit. They end up feeling a little digitally goopy, a little bit too fuzzy. They don't have quite as much impact. But when they're retrofitted with a different sound on something like this, and we have songs like Parasite or Memorabilia, for instance, which are honestly songs that I respectively like and am mildly indifferent to, are put on here and utilized to incredible effect. I love the structural dalliances that are taken in this song. Like, they are actually sort of taken apart and put back together in very interesting ways that really do affect how the song feels. And not to mention, there are just existing songs on here that I really, really love in their bass form that I also similarly love here. Came Back Haunted is one of their best late era singles, and it is a fucking jam. She's Gone Away is probably my favorite Nine Inch Nails song, and this version of it works better than it ought to, considering the strange plotting pace of the first half, but the explosive second half really just makes this work. Honestly,
This one was the one that I held the highest stakes for because it was the
Yeah.
one that I was the most intimate with due to my deep connection with Twin Peaks.
And I
And
had
it's
it for
perfectly
similar
placed
reasons.
here and it works perfectly. For what this album is, this version of She's Gone Away works exceptionally well.
Oh, for sure.
Sneaking in that harsh electric guitar riff that
Mm,
defines so much of that song's rhythm, just to first tease the fact that it's about to be played, because that's the thing, is that this album flirts with being a live album. So many
hmm
of these songs are bookended with crowd noise that are very quickly blanketed over by a more traditional mix, but
Yeah.
it's very clearly still new vocals,
Yes.
even on songs as iconic as Closer. It's a new vocal track, and you can tell.
Definitely, for sure. And I think these vocal tracks are like none of them are noticeably different when it comes to quality. I don't think that like even new vocal tracks on songs that are like 30 years old still sound fantastic with Trent's vocals. And we do have some new opportunities to incorporate like female gang vocals are putting into it. We actually get to hear a little bit of Nine Inch Nails, the live band, as a part of this, which I do think is actually quite valuable because it's an aspect of their sound that doesn't necessarily always shine through on the studio recordings. Honestly, the only real negative thing I have to say about this, other than, your mileage is going to vary based on how much you like this music, how much you like the original music, and however you really end up splitting the difference. But I think this is like sequenced well. It has a nice flow overall. Like as an album, it meets the bare minimum. I feel like this was curated enough to be a specific statement and for me to enjoy the uniqueness of that statement. The only place that it doesn't really fall off with me because I don't think that this part is bad or anything. It's just that maybe it has to do with the fact that it's a part of an album that is so linked to its track list and its concept and like its own flow, but the version of Closer on here is it's fine. It's good. I like it. But like the thing is with Closer is that I guess I might just be so attached to that song and the way that it sounds and every little tiny production detail in it that just like hearing it changed is a little like already like, whoa, I don't know, like why are you fucking with perfection, man? But I mean, like, I get why and it's functional here, but like, it just doesn't quite have the same, like, just because Closer is a song that benefits from dynamism. This album is not about that. This album is about being loud, being constant, and being overwhelming. And it's good at that. I really appreciate that. But Closer is a song that needs to fluctuate a little. It's a song that needs those dynamics to be way more in extremes, and this album is way more about trying to congeal together with its new sound, which it is good at. It just ends up diminishing this one particular moment for me. But maybe I'm alone in that. Other
Eh,
people could be
eh,
fucking with that heavy.
I'm not gonna say that you're alone with it, but to defend it from my strange
Go
perspective,
ahead.
I'll put a bullet on this version of Closer by saying this. One, I just really appreciate it because I now realize the first time that I listened to Nine Inch Nails was not the first time I watched Twin Peaks. It was the first time I got drunk with my friends in college.
Oh.
Because the first time I got drunk with my friends in college, we watched the Black Mirror episode, Rachel, Jack, and Ashley 2.
Ew, yeah, yeah. There you go. There you go.
And
Wow.
so the first time I ever listened to a Nine Inch Nails song, if you want to get really technical about it, was listening to Miley Cyrus cover Head Like a Hole as a perfectly perverted satirical pop track, and then a half-heartedly but genuinely sweet garage bar band tribute cover song. And this version of Closer feels like Boys Noise trying to make his version of Closer in a
Okay.
way that respects his own approaches to dynamism that affects a lot of the songs on this album. And frankly, I'm a sucker for the live album twitches that this has.
Yeah, I
And
am
I
too.
sent this to a friend of mine, and I was like, I've been listening to both of these versions of this songs like pretty much back to back this week while preparing to listen to this review and really being able to appreciate the subtle differences in the instrumentation. And I sent it to a friend of mine, and she was just like, oh yeah, this is kind of good, but I hate the crowd noises.
Damn.
And I'm just like, I want to get into it. And the crowd
Yes,
noise has kind
no.
of helped me. The crowd and the live album introjection kind of helps me get into this
It's
version of the
immersive.
song serving a specific purpose. Same with the version of As Alive as You Need Me to Be that's on
Correct.
this, which honestly I get more out of than I do in the
Yes,
original soundtrack version
I do
because
too.
it feels like a fun song to sing at the end of the concert. And it feels like a fun song to get hyped up to hear.
It feels like a song that was designed to be played live now that you hear it that way. Like I kind of feel like this one project kind of invalidated my need to even like download the Tron Ares soundtrack because that's the only part of it I was really like, oh yeah, I really like this single. But nah, this to me is kind of the definitive version of the song. Like the overwhelming 80s synth that are, that kind of tinges that entire soundtrack. It feels really complemented very well here just because Nine Inch Nails' music has never been colorful in that specific way, but it is here, and I really, really like this look on them. It's very, very fitting, but without feeling like it's too similar to stuff that they've already done. And that's kind of why I end up coming out so positively with this project, because like at the end of the day, and I feel like you will be able to speak to this if you've been listening to more Nine Inch Nails in like the album format, but like once you become a genuine bona fide Nine Inch Nails fan, there's like this weird dichotomy of you listening to their music casually because it is fucking they're ragers and they have really good pop hooks and Trent is like a really underrated pop songwriter in general, and then you listen to them in the album format and you want to like drink whiskey and die. So like you need a version of their music that is just designed for you to like dance and have fun to it rather than the dark night of the soul of just like, when I want to listen to Heresy, I don't want to listen to the entirety of the Downward Spiral. It's like, it's a perfect album. It's one of my favorites. I am not always in the mood to listen to it. I am most of the time in the mood to listen to most of the songs on here. So it does end up suiting a very specific purpose that I am, at the end of the day, grateful for, even if I still can't help but feel like, we're a bunch of little rats being like, give us crumbs, Daddy Trent, please, we're starving. But alas, such is life.
If this is what he wants to do, let him.
And he seems like he's having fun. The live show is fantastic. Luke talked about getting to go to one of the Nine Inch Nails concerts they were doing on this most recent tour during our retrospective. Go check that out if you want to get a good idea for what they're like live. But it seems like Trent is just in a very good creative place. And I can't fault him for not catering to my 15-year-old expectations. I say 15-year-old expectations in that I have been waiting 15 years and I was 15 when I got into Nine Inch Nails. So, dual meanings, bitch. I don't know.
But thumbs up for
Thumbs
Nine
up.
Inch Noise.
Go check it
Absolutely.
out. Go have fun. Go blast this shit. Just blow out some speakers on this. You'll have a good time. So, that means we are going over to rising star Ella Langley with her new album Dandelion, which Jen, you put in front of me. What do you know exactly about Miss Ella Langley here? Because as I demonstrated last night when I was doing my cursory before we record listen to a record, I turned off the album. Immediately the radio came on as soon as I was done and played a song from this album. And I was like, okay. I've been doing this for 6 years and this has never happened before, so this feels like some sort of cosmic sign, and I did end up very much enjoying this record. So tell me, what exactly has thrust Miss Ella into the spotlight here, and what exactly is it that makes her stand out from the pack, and maybe even what ties her to some country artists that we've talked about in the past year?
I'm so excited. Okay, so yeah, this is Ella Langley's sophomore album. Ella Langley is my age.
Oh, are you trying to kill me today? Is that the goal?
I had to have that moment.
I hate reviewing artists that are younger than me. I fucking hate it so, so much. You turn 25 and then everything just sucks, man.
We should maybe cut all of this out. So I'm gonna start over. Her debut album, Hungover, made her immediately one to watch because she got in good with somebody at Nashville. I don't know any other way to put it. It's an open secret that Nashville is still one of the more incestuous handouts sides of the country music industry. If you know a guy who knows the right guy, and you're talented and you can make good music, you're going to make it immediately. And Ella Langley made it immediately because she's really talented and she makes good music. And
Yep.
Hungover is a fantastic debut album. She had just the right combination of somebody who, frankly, wants to get famous in this generation of music production and music marketing, where she has all of the Nashville classic strategies behind her, along with the alchemy of TikTok virality, because her duets with Riley Green, You Look Like You Love Me, took over the planet for a short while, at least in the country music space. And it deserved it too. Both of them are very promising young talents who already have a lot of great work behind them. And that seemed like a moment where the stars aligned very early for them in a way that allowed them to show off the best of both of their respective talents. But whereas Riley Green was already at this kind of young legend in the making status, that song is what got Ella to that status of being somebody who's about to change the game. And I've seen this somewhere before, not too long ago, actually. Because while thinking about Ella Langley, I've also been thinking about the first two albums from Maren Morris, who
Ooh.
blew up around the time that I was about to graduate high school with a very successful debut album off of a very successful debut single, My Church, that I remember hearing like every single day on Sirius XM the year that it came out because that single had so much push behind it.
Sorry, everybody. We live in Kentucky. We listen to radio. We know it's sorry.
Actually pushed back Dandelion when we thought it was going to come out last year. And Dandelion has become a product of her wanting to be very intentional with wanting to make a sophomore album, something that isn't just a practice of getting your foot in the door, but a real artistic statement about where she is now that she's got a lot of credibility and a lot of reliable collaborators. And namely, I think what gives Dandelion its frankly standout maturity from other artists of Ella Langley's age and caliber is the inclusion of producer and collaborator Miranda Lambert on this record, because I don't want to underplay her involvement in this. I really do think a lot of credit for how good this album is can be handed to her production on the majority of the tracks on this, and her songwriting on singles like Choosin' Texas, which Choosin' Texas was immediately, this is instant classic.
Oh my God, yes. Absolutely.
Steel guitar
Mm.
on this song is so beautiful. It's unlike anything that I've ever heard in anything that's structured like this. And Ella in this album is all about knowing how to go back and forth between the smoky bar to the honky tonk to even a couple of tributes to like R&B laced stuff
Hmm.
that actually works on this. Do you know how good it feels to say that a country singer knows how to take influence from R&B
Not as
and
good
lace
as it
it
is to
in?
hear, I'll tell you that much.
It's
Fuck.
great to listen to, which I mean, we're going to
Uh-huh.
talk about it. So, had you listened to any of Ella's previous stuff before getting into this?
Nope, this was somebody who just kind of missed me that first time around. I remember seeing like her album appear on like the Rate Your Music charts as soon as it came out, and it kind of like dwindled off just because she's not really big enough to the point where she can hold her own on a site like that. So I
Yeah,
had
no country musician that isn't Sturgill Simpson is going to be able to hold on Rate Your Music, and that's only because Sturgill Simpson is very online.
Sturgill Simpson is incredibly online and makes consciously weirder shit than everybody else does. Like Jason Isbell can barely hold his own on that fucking website. But the thing is with Ella here is that I came at this and I was like, okay, like just by the album cover alone, this is projecting such a specific image and such a specific idea and even era of country music and country musician that I was like, I feel like I'm ready to experience an expensive sounding album. And I know that's kind of like a little bit of a like, oh, why would you just automatically expect that? Well, it doesn't really fucking matter what I expected at the end of the day, because holy fuck, this album sounds good. And I don't want to hinge all of this on like the spine of the production being amazing, because I think that most of the props here should in fact go to Miss Ella Langley for being a spectacular central performer. But the instrumentation in here is just stellar stuff. Is it going to do anything that is like super left of the dial or anything? Is this going to, do anything that like Sturgill Simpson's doing on his most recent album? No, absolutely not. But what it is going to give you is some nice, detailed, ornamental fundamentals. And it sounds amazing. Like the pedal steel guitar across this entire record is a delight to behold to the ears. Like, you can that's an instrument that you can kind of record with a fucking toaster and still make it sound like it has class somehow. But on here specifically, the tenor that it strikes in these mixes is so specific. It's like specifically carved out to have this like space in the mix for like mid-tones. So it always hits your ear just right. And I fucking love that. But I think my favorite part of this, stealthily, is the songwriting, honestly. It is a lot of really great country song conceits. Choosing Texas, for instance, is kind of sort of taking a long established country music trope and kind of turning it on its head and sort of classifying people solely based off of their geography and then kind of inverting the dynamic, as it were, inside the actual context of the song. And it ends up painting the portrait of somebody who is very insecure. And that insecurity bleeds through on basically the entire record. Is that this whole album is kind of about growing up, feeling that insecurity, recognizing it as an adult, but also not really being able to feel like you can do much about it. Like you become adult enough to realize that your emotions are childish, but that doesn't mean that they leave you. That doesn't mean that you stop feeling them. So on songs like Choosing Texas or We Know Us, for instance, there are recognitions of just like faults that you find within yourself that maybe you shouldn't have, that you're too aware of, but are inevitabilities that end up getting in your own way. And then there are moments where this album becomes super vulnerable and it starts being really smart with some of its sequencing. Specifically, I want to talk about the three-track run, which I think is the best it is the best three-track run on the album, in my opinion, but it is also kind of the most interesting point of sequencing and just overall is an interesting microcosm for it. But in the second half of this album, we get a cover of It Wasn't God Who Made Honky Tonk Angels, which is a very fascinating cover choice. Like, if you know anything about country music, this is like covering Jolene and putting it
I
on
was
your album,
really glad to pick your brain about this because as soon
right?
as I saw that this was on here, I was like, oh, we're doing something.
Something. And this song was originally a response song to another song by a country singer who essentially was tacitly blaming the sort of, the kind of clutching pearls about women being unfaithful and sort of like women who are unfaithful making unfaithful men. And it wasn't God who made Honky Tonk Angels as a direct counter that said, just as often is the case is that unfaithful men make unfaithful women, you jackass. And so it is a very pointed, very sharp song that has a long-held tradition of being covered as a standard by multiple artists. But like putting it on here is such a distinct choice, specifically before the two songs that follow it, which are probably my two favorite songs on the album, which are Last Call for Us and Broken. Last Call for Us is just this perfect, slow, smoky, end of the barroom, like acknowledgement of just like you are emotionally mature enough to realize that you shouldn't go home with somebody. And they are also emotionally mature enough to realize that they shouldn't. And it's about that tension that you feel in the final minutes of leaving somewhere and being like, we shouldn't do this, we're not going to do this. But maybe. And the way that the
Yeah, like
song
the
leads you
mutual
along.
acknowledgement of the temptation, but also the maturity is like a double-edged sword of a turn on.
Yes, it's like it's both exciting and like, oh, don't do this. Like it is the perfect melding of complicated emotions. And then immediately going into Broken afterwards is kind of a work of sequencing genius because you get this really earnest, really emotional song that I mean, like the performance on here is just absolutely spantastic. Spantastic? Fantastic. I'm talking too fast.
It
God
needs a
damn
new word. It's that
Honestly, I
good.
needed to invent it for this fantastic song. But like it is just this song that really reminds me of like late 2000s and early 2010s country radio hits that would have been like I don't know, Lady Antebellum or something like that, where there's like this really melodramatic crux to the song that it hinges on, where it's about just kind of like just saying fuck it and like letting each other be vulnerable in front of one another, whatever that means to you. And immediately after the last song, it's like a narrative has developed of them both just being like, I fuck it. Like them just completely breaking down their barriers, and whether or not it's a good decision or not, they end up probably within this context sleeping together. And this one little like moment thing here, it's just like you get someone sticking up for themselves at the beginning of this little three-track arc of really just sort of asserting themselves. And then their walls break down. And then ultimately it is an act of humiliation, of self-humiliation that puts them all on the same level on Broken. And I just really appreciated that. It means that Ella Langley is trying to be a storyteller as well as a songwriter. And on this album, I feel like that this isn't the only part at which that is the case, like songs like Speaking Terms about not really reconciling with a family member or a loved one who you talk to but don't listen to. And
This song
boy,
is about Jesus.
it hurts. It hurts. It's a
Jake, this
painful
song is
song.
about Jesus.
I, yes, but that's
It's
the
kind
thing.
of also about that, but it's
It's
phrased like it's very about Jesus, which I appreciate.
Yes, I feel like you can sort of split the difference with this song of it being like it kind of means both of these things. It's sort of a like it's really about just trying to maintain a connection with someone who you do see legitimate fault in, which from the religious perspective is genuinely very fascinating and quite critical on her behalf, honestly. And like it does showcase some self-reflection of just like is my relationship to this person actually healthy? Is it actually good for me? And just asking that question on an album like this in general is rather insightful. It's not like an album that I feel like really goes deep into subject matter like this often is a very personal record, but it is such a well thought and like well considered album from a writing standpoint that like even the frivolous moments on here like Bottom of Your Boots are sweet and fun, and I love the little linguistic kind of playing that she does in here. It's really fun. Like this is an album that has 16 songs on it properly and is almost an hour long, and I was like, oh boy, this might get a little long. No, this is a very well-paced, very dynamic record with songs that kind of run the gamut. You kind of get a little bit of everything when it comes to this album.
Honestly, your little triptych that you did, mine, I have one of my own that's just a
Woo!
little bit adjusted because I ran a little triptych in my perception of this album that went from Last Call for Us to Something Simple, a
Huh.
song about like it felt like a perfect third act conclusion to that story for me, where it felt like a perfect conclusion to what was introduced in the other single for this album that got really big, Be Her, which is a song all
Yeah,
about like
great
wanting
hook.
to the temptation to run away from a life of fame and envying somebody who not only has the normal life that you miss, but appears to have everything together.
Look, Miss Langley, I get it. I also want to be her. I get it. I get it.
And Something Simple felt like a perfect complement to that, where now you're projecting that desire for a normalcy that can be felt not just by yourself, but by the people around you.
Hmm.
Where it's just like, please just look at me and see that I want the regular things that everybody else does and give me that. Please, can we have that? Like the whole three-song segue from Last Call for Us, Broken to Something Simple feels like a product of that in the way that I
Yeah.
think is very interesting.
And then you get to cap it all off with Butterfly Season, the duet with Miranda Lambert, which is
Oh my God.
just gorgeous. Just gorgeous. I love the way that these two play off of each other. Like the vocal chemistry is instant. You immediately understand why Miranda was a collaborator on here in the first place. She's got a couple songwriting credits as well. And it's like, yeah, you know what? This does feel like an album. Like this is not a The Weight of These Wings, but Ella Langley is the type of artist who has a The Weight of These Wings in her. It's very, very obvious by the time I finished with this that I was like, I feel like greatness is really on the horizon for this girl because she's clearly got the talent, she's clearly got the charisma, and it looks like she's getting the right commercial push. So I hope that maybe like low key, I've been mildly kind of lamenting the fall, in my own estimation anyway, of Casey Musgraves, who really kind of felt like she might have been the pop country savior back when Golden Hour came out and it got so much attention and it was so big and it was such a big crossover moment and it was like, wow, it really feels like me. This girl might be going places, and then she decided to just make the most boring fucking music in the world. And there's
Yeah,
been
but
a
okay. Here's where
Casey
I have to.
Musgraves shaped hole in the country music world, and honestly, it feels like this is the kind of music I wish she was still making.
I mean, the thing is that Golden Hour was a bright spot in a very dark period for country music's mainstream appeal. And at this point, I'm ready to wait on another Way to These Wings rather than another Golden Hour.
Oh, for sure.
Because country music is mainstream now and better for it. Like artists like Zach Bryan are making good music that people are recognizing is good.
Yep.
And that's an improvement.
Tyler
And
Childers
so,
getting lots of good press. Jason Isbell getting lots of good press. Sturgill Simpson making it onto the top 10 best-selling vinyl. Country music is a little bit back. It's a little bit back without being Morgan Wallen, which is
and it
good, which is
and it
very,
doesn't
very good.
and it doesn't have to wear the pop accessories to get there. And I'm glad for that because I don't want to have to compromise this genre to be able to talk about it and feel like I'm talking about something that's culturally relevant.
Yeah, and I feel like this is culturally relevant. Like I feel like this has a place like if you like, female-led indie rock these days and you like a little polish in your instrumentation, ignore the twang in her voice because I guarantee you there's something here for you to like because the crossover between country music and indie rock is getting like that Venn diagram is slowly becoming a circle with the alt country movement that indie rock is currently in right now.
If you want
So,
to, this is only a couple of hard genre stepstones away from like Rat Boys or Big Thief.
yes,
If you're into
exactly.
Rat Boys or Big Thief, this is a little bit more traditional country music than you're used to, but it
That
has
just
a
means
lot of
it's
the same
different enough to
appeal.
be cool and interesting. Oh, meet us
It's
halfway here.
almost like genres exist because they're all cool.
Oh my God. It's almost like we shouldn't arbitrarily wall ourselves off from music based off of silly classifications that were made to market to us.
You let me demarcate you.
You let me deregulate you. Help me. Thumbs up for Ella Langley.
Thumbs up for Ella Langley.
Go check this
Absolutely.
album out. If you were a big fan of stuff earlier this year, like if you like that Zach Bryan album, or if you checked out that Emily Scott Robinson album, I have the album for you. And just like every week, tell us what you're listening to, talk about what we're talking about, talk about what we're not talking about, and then maybe we'll talk about it. Talking, that's what this show is for.
Support the show. You can do so by joining our YouTube community page. You'll get access to our Discord server where we hang out and talk about what everybody in our circle is listening to, watching, enjoying.
And as always, folks, rock over London, rock on Chicago, Sprite, obey your thirst. It's so dramatic, and for what?
You want to see me drink this guy? I'm obeying my thirst, Goku.